I'm Matt Kilpatrick.
Will Pearson, nice to meet you.
Will, good to meet you as well. Tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm from Birmingham originally, grew up here, and as did my wife.
Cool.
Was off at Duke for a few years in college, and that's where the idea for Mental Floss came up. And you know, being a student in a dorm room, you have these bright ideas that you think are brighter than they really are, but sometimes being naive is what pays off. So.
Every once in a while you ignorantly fall on a good one. Huh?
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, it is a good one. I'm a big fan of the magazine. How do you find all the content to go in there? I mean, it's like little excerpts of brilliant statements everywhere. How does your research team find all this stuff?
We actually just make it up, don't tell
Good,
me.
so do we. That's what we do.
Yeah, no, I marvel still, you know, this many years into it, at our writers' ability and our readers' ability to dig up such interesting stuff. So, you know, we get submissions all the time from new freelance writers, and there are experts on anything under the sun, you know, the pets of presidents, or the, you know, oddball facts about cars, or whatever it is, and people are sending us such interesting things all the time, to the point that we eventually had to start something on the website that we call the Amazing Fact Generator, where our readers actually send us things and people can click and read fact after fact after fact. I mean, we filter them and make sure they're accurate.
Of course, yeah.
But you know, they're experts on just about anything. It's fun to see what comes in.
I bet. And you're here local.
Yeah.
You mentioned down at Pepper Place, is that right?
Our office is down at Pepper Place. Now, I split my time, as do the two others that are there, between here and New York. But we were acquired about a year ago, but wanted to stay in Birmingham and keep this office here and keep living in Birmingham. All three of us love being here, so we do spend a good bit of time in New York, but decided to stay here.
Awesome. Now, how did it take shape? You mentioned a college dorm brainstorm kind of deal. Was there a pinnacle moment where you guys were sitting around a table saying, do we do this, do we not do this?
There really was. I mean, there were two of us. Mangesh is the name of the other co-founder. The two of us had been talking about this idea for a while. So it really kind of started during the middle of the whole Who Wants to Be a Millionaire craze. You know, it came on every single night. And this idea of people enjoying learning and liking to feel smart, but also wanting to enjoy the process. And you know, again, going back to being naive college students, we somehow thought we were qualified to start this magazine.
Of course.
So we started it as a campus publication, and there was kind of that moment. I was actually preparing to study abroad in northern India and Tibet, and decided, you know what, I'm going to stay back. We want to do this. Let's start this. So one of these days, that's a trip I still want to take, but I never regret that, because it did give us the opportunity to start the magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. And well done there. I mean, what a success story.
All right, and what do you do?
I work as the liaison between the breweries and our sales team with Birmingham Beverage.
Okay.
I also manage the large portion of our craft portfolio for Alabev, which is our craft division.
Mm-hmm.
I will handle the phone calls. I will go visit the breweries, the painful beer tastings that they put me through.
Yeah, I'm sure that's rough.
And trip. Yeah, the first time I went to Rogue in Oregon, I was fired up. You know, it's my first time in Oregon, my first time on the West Coast, and I was like, okay, I need to focus. I need to get business minded, because here I am, this young guy. The company's sending me out here to learn about the brewery, and he takes me to a waterfall first thing. He's like, well, you need to see this. And I was like, wow, I love the beer industry.
Right.
But yeah, Birmingham Beverage has been very good to me. Harry Kampakis, our owner, is he's really got a vision for the industry. He saw this, what's going on with craft beer. He saw it happening 10, 15 years ago, and decided he was going to diversify his company in a time when, you know, Coors Light does work very well for us.
Right.
Corona does very well for us. So everybody kind of looked at him like, why do we need to diversify? Why do we need to? We're doing well here. And today we're like, thank you, Harry, for diversifying, because now it's fun. Now we're
seeing that in advance.
Yeah, we have stories. We have products with stories, culture, personalities. And it makes selling the beer fun.
Has there been one of the beers that has just been the biggest surprise success? Not because it was, you know, better than you thought, but just one that really broke through?
You know, I think they're all good in their own respect. You know, it's kind of like children for me. I've got all these breweries that I have a personal vested interest in. I have a plan for them in the market, and each one wants to be a different thing. You know, good people doesn't want to be Avondale, and Avondale doesn't want to be good people. And so the things that they're doing in the markets, I'm equally proud. Yeah, it's like children, you know. I'm equally proud of all of them because they are so different from each other, and they are committed to their own culture, and that is a beautiful thing.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now, are you from Birmingham also?
I grew up here. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Kind of bounced around a little bit, and then settled here, I guess about 11 or 12 years old.
Okay.
Been here ever since.
I was there not too long ago. It's a great town,
It's
Charleston.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's one of those places where you go back to and it just enters your soul.
Right.
It's like, oh man.
You can sense that when you're there, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tough to leave, but Alabama's great.
Yeah.
mean, I'm really enjoying seeing what's happening with the state and the direction that we're getting. We're getting some good momentum behind us finally. So it's a good time to be here in Birmingham especially, but Alabama. And I went to graduated from the University of Alabama in their operations management through quality and systems program, which has absolutely nothing to do with beer. But I do find some application from my college.
There's always a way to apply beer, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
It helps, you know. We're in one of the most competitive and fastest growing industries, and at the end of the day, I mean, there are times when we do have to have a beer together.
Right.
It's just so.
I'm sure.
But the reward is so great when you're. One of the joys I have is I get to be on the inside of all these budding businesses.
Right.
You know, I was there with Jason and Michael from Good People when they sold their first beer.
Very cool.
I was there when the guys at Avondale were dreaming up, and now it's a beautiful design.
What great success stories, yeah.
Same thing with Huntsville, and then it's allowed me to travel all over the nation. I've been whale watching in Portland, Portland, Oregon. I've been through the redwoods in Northern California.
Oh, very cool.
It's beautiful, and to see the brewing culture come back to America.
Right.
Because prior to Prohibition, I mean, that's what we were. Brewing,
Yeah.
our forefathers were home brewers. It was part of our pastime. If you look globally, you'll see that even though these trends are new to America, they're not new globally. I mean, we've just basically revamped our brewing society.
Yeah.
And it's just now hitting Alabama. So it's really cool to be a part of it. Everything's changing around us. And I get to be kind of nestled into the middle of it. So
that's fun.
It's really cool.
We've actually got a story in the issue that's just going to press that's about light beer, and in a lot of ways people kind of mock light beer as being a simple beer, a simple taste, but the story is all about how difficult it is to brew light beer. I mean, that's what the whole story is about. It's not about the taste, it's not about anything else, you know, whether we love it or hate it, but it's really much more about it's one of those that brewers have, you know, one of the biggest challenges of getting that taste and that consistency just right in a light beer.
Well, not to mention, when you look at majority of light beers are lagers, and lager means to store.
Right.
So you're taking your equipment and you're saying, I'm going to turn it half as much as I am when I'm producing ales. Because ales you can produce, you know, 3-4 weeks.
Right.
You're clearing your tanks, you're selling that beer. Lagers, you're storing that for 5-6 weeks, sometimes even more. And so it takes so much more of an investment and commitment to quality. But where do you see the future of Mental Floss going? What's the plan for this magazine? I read, I think there are a couple events coming up with the Golden...
We've got something called the Golden Lobe Awards where we recognize kind of, not undiscovered genius, but genius that hasn't gotten enough recognition. You know, people doing interesting things, inventing new things, and so we try to celebrate that, and that's actually in the most recent issue, the one where Alton Brown, who's a new food columnist with us, has joined the team to do this, and so it's in that issue that's on stands now. So we're doing that. We've got that event coming up actually in 2 places. We've got one in New York, but one also in Louisville, Kentucky. It's something called the Idea Festival. We've got a number of other things that are in the works, but you know, at the pace things have gone, it's tough to tell exactly what the future will bring.
Sure.
We've got, you know, a lot happening on the digital front. The website has really grown significantly. Our presence on Twitter and other things have become a bigger part of the business. We're getting in the kids' business actually. This fall we're launching a series called Smarty Pants. And so a lot of parents out there will know the company Melissa and Doug for their quality toys, and we're working with them to launch this series of card-based games and learning materials that the packaging actually looks like a pair of pants being worn by a brain, and you lift off the cap and you've got these card sets in there with different questions and games, and so it'll be targeting anything from preschoolers all the way up through 5th grade with with sets dedicated to each age level. So we're excited about that.
I love that. My mom's she's a 4th grade teacher, and one of the biggest challenges for her is to break the memorizing phase. Just getting through school, because at 4th grade, you're starting to get some deductive reasoning skills.
Exactly.
Your cognitive thought processes developing, and something like this she would eat up.
Well, that was actually one of our biggest goals was, so many of the other materials that you see out there are very, as you said, memorization based. And it is, here's a fact, now memorize it and we'll quiz you. And there's a place for that, that's great. But we also wanted this to really be a full brain challenge, and kind of, with mental floss we look at left and right brain, and we wanted to throw in some logic puzzles and some creative challenges and word puzzles, and so all of that's kind of mixed into there in this one package. So I can't wait to see it come out. We've teamed up with Toys R Us, will be the launch partner for it, so it'll be out later this fall, and then we'll have a bigger rollout in Q1. So yeah.
Well, good luck. That's
exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yeah. What's new for you guys? What's on the horizon?
New breweries. One of the advantages that we have in Alabama of being behind the curve is we get to see it all coming into the Southeast. So we get to go benchmark and see, okay, this is what's happening in Portland, Oregon. This is what's happening in Portland, Maine. And it's all coming and centering around Alabama. So I think that the craft brewery trends are going to continue to increase. I would imagine this time next year we're talking about another 6 or 7 breweries starting in Alabama.
Wow. Kind of makes it hard for the connoisseurs to keep up in some ways, but exciting, I'm sure.
It is. There's an interesting rift happening now where local breweries are separating themselves from regional craft breweries.
Oh, really?
In a segment. And there's a lot of regional craft guys that are like, what do we do about this local thing?
Right.
And us as distributors, we are actively trying to change the culture, and you can't do that without a good local partnership.
Yeah.
I think, you look at places, San Francisco, craft beer has a 30% share of the total market. 30% of the beer drank in San Francisco is craft beer. Here we're like an 8%.
Right.
So
I'm there next week. Is there something I should try?
Absolutely.
Well, you have to give me a list.
Yeah, San Francisco is just, the list is a mile long, and I'll send you all the way up the coast.
Okay.
But go see Anchor Brewing. As far as class goes, they've got it all. Yeah. Fritz Maytag started that company before it was cool to brew craft beer, and made it through every punch and kick that the industry threw at him. He built the ideal craft brewery, and it sits on top of a hill in San Francisco and overlooks the city. From the copper kettles to the brick on the outside of the building, to his beer, it is top notch.
Really?
And if I was going to pick one to see in San Francisco, that's it.
Well, now I've got it planned.
Yeah,
I know what I'm going to do out there. Yeah.
And in my case, I get to write that off as work.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I do the same thing I was telling. Once our company was acquired and we started focusing more on starting to sell ads, and I'm going out to each of the markets and working with the sales team, and I told the president of the North American division, I said, I love getting in the trenches with the salespeople, and I said, and by trenches I mean really nice restaurants.
That's right.
He pointed at his stomach and said, I call this trench foot. So anyway, it's definitely a fun part of the job.
It is. It's tough to balance, but it is fun.
Right. This was a lot of fun. It was great meeting you.
I know. I really appreciate the time. I will be picking up your magazine, I guess, 8 issues now.
That's right. Yeah,
awesome.
8 times a year.
I've got my subscription filled out.
And I look forward to the recommendations on what I should try next.
Oh, absolutely. I'll send you all over the nation. Don't worry.
All right.
All right.